Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today I'm going to be re-looking at ranking all of the 6th Doctor stories. Now, I've done this once before, but it was fresh coming off the season 22 box set with 3 stories I'd never seen before, and the others from that season I hadn't seen in a long time. Now that I've had time to let that settle a bit, and plus it's just been fun kind of going back and revisiting the eras that I've seen all of and doing the premiere with the live chat with it. You guys seem to enjoy that. I enjoy that. I think it would be a good opportunity to revisit this list now that I've seen all of 22 and that's had time to kind of sit and digest and kind of see if my ranking of the stories would change any. Now, of course, I'm only going to be looking at Colin's TV stories, Twin Dilemma through Ultimate Foe. Those 11 stories. Although I will give a shout out to the Sontaran mini episode of Fixed with Sontarans. I did like the edited version of that. That was on the season 22 box set. That was actually a fun little watch, just to give it a little honorable mention. The edited version of it with that other nasty piece cut out. It was actually a fun little watch. Starting at the bottom of the list, we are looking at 11th place, and for me, that is Mind Warp. I just don't get into Mind Warp as much. I love the fact Brian Blessed is in it. I like the fact that, again, Perry and the Doctor are a little more friendly with each other in season 23. I like that Syl is back. I don't think he's used as effectively here, but I like that he's back. He's such a cool character. He's written well, he's designed well, and the actor who plays him really well. I'll talk more about him when I get to Vengence. I just don't get into this one as much. It's very forgettable. I don't like the ending with Perry. I am glad they retconned that ending and that she survived. It was kind of an odd retcon with her marrying the king. That's weird, but I'm glad she didn't get taken over and die the way it looked there. I didn't really... What it needs? Sugar. Yeah, I just never really liked that ending. I mean, it's great acting on Nicola's part. It really is. She plays the part well with the voice and the skull cap and the expression on her face. But I never cared for that. For me, it would have made Davison's sacrifice in Caves of Androzani to save her pointless. And so I am glad they retconned that. But yeah, like I said, I more remember the cliff notes of this one just because I've seen it a couple times, but I never go back and revisit it because small moments aside, I just don't care for it, personally. Number 10 on the list is the Twin Dilemma. I mean, this one had to be low. I don't think it's the worst Doctor Who story ever. And especially fresh off a rewatch of it, I can appreciate parts of it. I like the bold strokes of the plot. Now, a lot of the little details in the plot don't work, but just the plot as a general outline works. I understand the Doctor's suffering some post-regeneration stress, but it's way overdone. But the plot with the slug thing and his plan and what he's doing to try to spread the eggs everywhere, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. I actually like that. Some of the actors are okay. The young lieutenant guy who's there, he's doing good. The twins' dad we see briefly is doing fine. I liked him. The old man Time Lord that used to run the planet, that's an old friend of the Doctor's, he's good. And I actually also really like the slug-like creature in it. I think he's written well as a character and his motivations for the plot of the story. And then the design of his costume, the little snail-like thing, slug-like thing, whatever it is, his costume's actually designed really well too. I actually enjoy that. Some of the set designs are also pretty nice. Not all of them, but some of them are nice. Then there's the bad of the story. The twins are just terrible. I mean, they're young boys. I get it, but their acting is atrocious. I can't overlook it. It's just really bad. The way the Sixth Doctor is written in this episode is abysmal. I get that they were trying to make him unlikable, and slowly over time he would become more likable, kind of like Hartnell and Capaldi are, you know, like an onion peeling back layers. But this first episode, he is so bad. It's a ridiculous way to end a season and introduce a new Doctor and leave people stewing for like 9 months before they see his next stories. I think there's like 9 months between Twin Dilemma and Attack of the Cybermen. That is a dumb idea, especially when you realize how hard JNT fought for that idea, because he fought hard to get Twin Dilemma as the season finale when they should have just ended the season on Caves. Instead, they had to do this. And then the way he turns and looks at the camera with, you know, I am the Doctor, whether you like it or not. That is like looking right at the camera, that is a dumb way to end that. Like, look, audience, you might not have liked me in the story, but I'm the Doctor, so like it or not, you can just get over it. That is just, is there a better way to alienate a franchise, you know, without being Chris Chibnall? Is there? It's absolutely awful. Yes, I've never got into the Sixth Doctor's outfit either, but that's more a overall thing than a Twin Dilemma thing. But, yeah, there's a lot of bad going. I can watch it. I will say that. The Twin Dilemma's watchable. I'd rather watch it than Power of Prowl. But there's so much bad going on. The Doctor just doesn't act like the Doctor when he's strangling Perry, when he wants to be a hermit, when he's hiding behind her. No, don't shoot me, shoot her. It is a little tough to sit through in parts. Number 9 on the list is The Ultimate Foe, Colin Baker's final TV story. This one's all right. Again, it's one I tend to appreciate more when I'm fresh off a rewatch than when it's been a little while. Of course, part 1 is Bob Holmes' final story, with part 2 being by Pip and Jane Baker. And considering, again, all of the circumstances going on with this story, the fact that it ended as well as it did is pretty impressive. I do like part 1 better. It's definitely a little darker. It has a good cliffhanger. It's Bob Holmes. I do like that Pip and Jane Baker went with the softer ending. I will side with J&T on this one. I think if they went with the original ending of the Doctor and the Valeyard tumbling into the abyss, that would have given the execs the excuse they needed to kill the show. J&T was very aware of that. So I like his more happier ending. I do think the actual ending they used is a little Deus Machina and rushed. But overall, I enjoy it. I'm not a big fan of Mel, so bringing Mel in here and in Terror doesn't really work for me. But Colin does get some great speeches. I'm trying to remember. This might be the one where he does his speech about Time Lords being corrupt. I forget. But I do like that speech a lot. So overall, this one's good. I tend to like it better when I'm fresh off a rewatch of it. I do remember after my last rewatch appreciating it more than I thought I did. Number 8 on the list is Terror of the Vervoids. I'm kind of surprised this one's this low. I like Terror of the Vervoids. It's a lot of fun. It's a neat concept. The special effects look fine. The Vervoid design is mostly fine. There is that bit with their face that once you see it, you just can't unsee it. It's always there every time you watch the story. It's just unfortunate and is what it is. I mean, it has Mel in it, and that's not great, but Colin's good in it. I do actually enjoy him in this one. This one is a fun watch. The mystery of it, watching it unfold, finding out the one guy is disguised as the other, as the aliens, and how the Doctor figures that out is really cool. Finding out there's so many people on that ship that just aren't good people. The one Doctor, the way she dies, the one who kind of invented them, it's kind of terrible because she just kind of walks into them and they're like, we know who you are. And the Doctor could have stopped it and he just let her. But I do like, especially the trial-less version of it on the box set where they cut out all the trial scenes and it just kind of makes it a nice standalone solo story. It's really nice, and the updated effects for it look good, and the updated intro looks really nice. I actually prefer that version of it because I don't really watch all of Trial of the Time Lord very often because it's Trial of a Time Lord, and to me season 23 is the weakest season in Classic Who and one of the weakest seasons in all of Doctor Who. So I much prefer to watch Trial just as a standalone story. Good stuff. Number 7 on the list is Vengeance on Varos. I'm surprised this one's not higher as well. At one point, before I'd seen them all, this was my favorite Colin story. This one seems written very well. It seems performed very well by the most part. I do think Sean Connery's son and his wife, their characters feel very wasted. This is the one with them in it, I think. They feel very wasted. Their characters don't really seem to have much of a purpose to be there for most of the time. But I do really like Nicola and Colin in this one. I like their acting together. I like, well, their acting in general and how well the characters are kind of bouncing off each other in this story. The guy who plays the governor, he's really good in this. I really like him. Seal is fantastic in this. I really like Seal. He's probably the last really good villain Doctor Who created. That's just like instant classic, bring him back for some more stories. I mean, they did do some other good ones afterwards, like Gene Marsh's character, but he's the last like iconic recurring villain I think that really showed up, that really left a mark, quite possibly. And again, the actor playing him is just so good. I love the voice he uses when he talks and that little laugh he does, just that little slimy, icky laugh that you just hate when he does, because there's a part of you that makes your skin crawl where you're like, ooh. But at the same time, it's an effective laugh and fits for his character because he's just a sleazy, slimy little corporate businessman. I live in America. I see business people like that all the time. It's a pretty apt analogy. So it's neat that this is a character that you can hate and like at the same time. He has that laugh you can hate and like at the same time. That's an effective laugh, but it makes your skin crawl. That, to me, that's a sign of a really well-created, crafted character when it can evoke both of those emotions, that you like him, that you hate him, that you appreciate this aspect of him even though you don't like it. Just really well done. I don't really care for the scene with Perry turning into the bird. That's weird. That's probably the worst thing the episode does. That's weird. The cliffhanger with the hanging bit, was that a cliff? No, that wasn't a cliffhanger. This is a two-part. The bit with the hanging bit, I think in the 4-cut episode version of it, maybe. The bit with the fake hanging is really good. It's very graphic. This is a very dark story. Season 22 is a dark season. This is a very dark story. So the false hanging bit's really good. The bit with the acid bath, when he shoves him into the acid bath. You'll pardon me if I don't join you. That's really good. The Sixth Doctor can be pretty dark. And then the actual cliffhanger when it looks like the Doctor dies is really good. I like it. The look on Colin's face when he's just laying there like, that's really good. And the camera's like, and cut. And it cuts. That's really neat. And then the effect when he sees the illusion of the sand, that actual special effect looks really good. Because you can still see the corridor, but it's like got a holographic image of the desert superimposed over it. And I think for 80s Doctor Who, that's a really impressive effect. And again, just the way Colin's doing his acting there, like he's getting hot and he's falling down. And that look on his face with his eye open, like it's not moving, like you actually think he might be dead. That cliffhanger all comes together really well. I like how it kind of predicts that kind of reality TV, which we kind of have now to an extent, not quite to that exaggerated degree. I like that we see the husband and wife couple with the voting, as kind of our segue view into the audience. That's kind of us. That's kind of the audience watching. And they really do come across as a married couple really well. There's a lot of really good things going on in Vengeance, and I was very surprised it wasn't higher. Number 6 on the list is Revelations of the Daleks. Again, another one you kind of figure might be higher. Revelation of the Daleks is good. It has excess on it doesn't need, like Clive Owens, the one who played in Voyage of the Damned, his character doesn't need to be there. It's just kind of wasted. And then the nurse that has the infatuation with him, Every time that kind of stuff is going on, I get annoyed. It doesn't need to be there. The actors are doing a fine job, but it just seems there to pad along the runtime. Every time they're doing stuff, I get annoyed. Although I do like when Clive's character dies and the toupee falls off. I do like that. Also, the other couple there, the woman and the man who are there to find her father, a lot of them being there doesn't add a lot to it. I mean, it has a couple cool scenes. Like, their actual death scenes are pretty cool. I just kind of hate they died. Their death scenes are pretty cool, especially with the enhanced effects, and you can see the floating Dalek. And then, of course, the scene when she actually discovers her father being turned into the Dalek, that's a really good scene. And the design of the glass Dalek is amazing and just revolting and disgusting. It communicates every emotion that it intends to communicate to you. When you see him in that gook and he's alternating between being her dad and talking like a Dalek and his voice changing, all of that is done very effectively. My hat's off to the team. I like the assassin guy with his squire. I really like the actors playing them and their characters a lot. I think Ellen Braun is back as this one, her and her little assistant. I like what's going on with them. Although I don't like the scene when her assistant dies and it takes him like 72 hours to actually die. At least it seems that long when he gets shot and he just kind of stands there a really long time. It doesn't quite work for me. But other than that, I enjoy them. I like Davros's plan when he's turning people into Daleks. That's a very Davros thing to do. We see that kind of happen again at the end of Series 1 of Modern Who. So I enjoyed that. Terry Malloy is fine here. The Doctor, I mean, Perry kind of has to kill that one kind of leper-looking guy. I hate she had to do that. They spend a lot of the first episode just getting to the place. Although I do love the Doctor's blue cloak, his Necros cloak. I do like that cloak a lot. And then the cliffhanger with the statue falling, that doesn't work for me because the statue looks fake. The little statue that has Colin's face on it looks so fake. I don't buy it. It just looks like a prop. So a good episode, but a flawed episode. And with a little too much excess in it. Number 5 on the list, and probably higher than it has any right to be, is Time Lash. Why would I have Time Lash so high? Maybe one is because of the updated effects. I've only watched it with the updated effects. I've watched it one time, and I watched it with the updated effects on the box set. Now, I've seen the original effects in comparison videos on YouTube, and yes, the original effects look really bad. And if I had watched it for the first time with the original effects, ooh. But watching it with the updated effects really helps it, especially the scene when the Doctor's in the Time Lash. I love. They made that look a lot better. It still goes on too long, though. The scene when they're in the Time Lash, even with the updated effects, eventually they start to get annoying. Matter of fact, they eventually start to get very annoying. We're looking at that stretchy blue. The problem with that Time Lash scene when he's in the Time Lash is it goes on way too long. Way too long. That needed to be like a third of the time, at least a fourth of the time. Go with that. It goes on way too long. But the updated version of it is better until it gets really annoying, if that makes sense. The effect of the Time Lash itself looks good, how it looks kind of like the 70s Time Vortex. I do enjoy that. Although I have seen a couple fan edits with updated effects online that do look better than the official ones, honestly. But they still look good. And then Paul Darrow is there, and Paul Darrow is just, he's having such a good time. It very much is, as it's been said before, he's doing Richard III, doing that character. He's just so chewing the scenery. It's so delicious, too. He looks like he's having a wonderful time. I guess I've always read, apparently he's getting Colin Baker back for when Colin Baker showed up in an episode of Blake 7 and was hamming it up. So I guess Paul Darrow feel like he had to up that here. So it's a fun story. I think everybody has at least got to give me credit on this one and agree with me on this one. The Borad makeup. The Borad makeup looks great. That looks phenomenal, especially for classic Who, but even for modern Who. The makeup they use on the Borad looks fantastic. I actually really, really like that. And then I enjoy the story. I actually enjoy the story. I like when he meets, what's basically H.G. Wells. The fact that the Borad, it mentions could be the Loch Ness Monster. I actually enjoy the story. It's fun. It's fun. It actually has a couple timey-wimey things it does that are neat. It's fun. Without the updated effects, I probably wouldn't like it as much. But the one time I watched it, I enjoyed it. We'll see how it holds up on rewatch. Number 4 on the list is The Mysterious Planet. Now, most of you guys know this is my favorite season 23 story. Right off the bat, I have to say the incidental music for this story is great. I don't actually remember it off the top of my head, but I always remember that I like it. I talk about it a lot. So mad props to the incidental music here. It's got Glitz in it. I love Glitz. I tend to like when Glitz shows up. He's also one of my favorite parts of Ultimate Foe. I forgot to mention that down there, but I really like Glitz as a character. Tony he's not really a good guy. He does a lot of questionable things, including in Dragonfire, which I talked about in that video recently, ranking the 7th Doctor stories. He does a lot of really bad things, but Tony plays him this kind of lovable rogue Han Solo way that still makes you just kind of root for him. So if he did sell his, crew into servitude, you gotta love him. He doesn't mean it. So I like Glitz in this a lot. The location work looks fine. Again, the Doctor and Perry seem to be getting on a lot better here than they did in season 22, to the point to where when they're having one conversation at one point when they're walking, they're even kind of poking fun at each other and elbowing each other. I think one of them actually does literally elbow the other briefly, like at least once. So I enjoyed that. The revelation that the planet is Earth. The actual robot designs aren't that impressive. Nothing, they can't hold a candle to robots of death, that's for sure, but they're okay. It's classic Who. And then I actually enjoy the story. I like Mysterious Planet. I think it could be the most underrated Colin story, honestly. Number 3 on the list is Attack of the Cybermen. I really enjoyed this one. I've only watched it the one time, but I liked it. The 6th Doctor here in his second story really becomes a lot more likable here. He is being heroic. He is trying to do the right thing. He still kind of has those outlandish moments. Bad, or whatever it is he does in this one that's like that. He still has his moments. But he is a lot better here. He's written well here. I love the Cybermen. It really connects to canon a lot. Now, for people who aren't familiar with Cybermen canon, that can be a little problematic. But for a lot of us who know, the events of 10th Planet and the events of Tomb of the Cybermen, and we're familiar with Telos, or Telos, or whatever the name of the planet is. I'm terrible with names. It's nice for us. It's kind of nice when Doctor Who has its, canon on point. And so that's kind of nice. I like the Cybermen design. I like the 80s Cybermen design, especially the less shiny version used in the first few stories. A lot here. I like when we meet the kind of workers who escape and get away, the one who's been partially converted. I like the sub-story that's going on with them. Even if they do ultimately all end up getting killed, I like that it's there. It doesn't feel padded out like some stories do. It actually feels like a pretty cool part of the story. I like having Lytton back. I think the actor who plays him is good. I think he's a neat character. And to find out he is actually turns out to be kind of a good guy here. He's trying to help. And then it's interesting because I don't know if the TV show has ever shown quite a horrific version of cyber conversion, actually seeing the cyber conversion. I guess the Age of Steel two-parter does a pretty good job of it too. But you really see just how horrific and scary it is being converted into a Cyberman in this. And even seeing Lytton when he's partially through the conversion and how he's still not completely himself and how he kind of sacrifices himself to help the Doctor as much as he can. That's really well done. There's a lot of body horror in here. This is the one, of course, where Lytton gets his hands crushed, which to me is not quite as over the top as it was made out to me to be. It's just, him sitting there with like red ketchup or whatever on his hands. It's still pretty graphic, especially for the show and for the time, for a kid's show, family show. But not quite as over the top as I thought it was. But it's still pretty dark story, actually. And I do enjoy the humorous bits with the TARDIS shape-shifting and becoming other things. I think that's kind of funny. So, yeah, I like Attack of the Cybermen. I need to actually give it a rewatch sometime soon. It's a lot of fun. Number 2 on the list, appropriately enough, is The Two Doctors. Now, one of the main reasons this is so high is Troughton, just anytime Troughton comes back, he kind of steals the show. Let's be honest. I love me some Patrick Troughton. And he's great in this. Even though a lot of the time he's captive and strapped down, his dialogue's still funny. I love when he's trying to challenge the Sontaran to the duel. Oh, crumbs. Even the part when he becomes the andromorph, or androgram. I can't remember. My memory's terrible. He's good when he's doing it. I used to really hate that part because it struck me as kind of silly, but the last time I watched it, it didn't bother me as much. And Troughton is putting in a good performance. That bit when he's like, "Why am I talking about food?" The way he says that line is perfect. I love it. So I love having Troughton back. And I love the fact that Troughton and Colin, even though they don't get much time together, they don't really get along. It's always interesting to me that Troughton's doctor does not get along with other doctors. Because Troughton's doctor is such a nice, easygoing guy, and he gets along with most people pretty well, except for the people he's going up against. So the fact that he seems the most antagonistic to other doctors, like all of the other doctors, is always interesting to me. I also like having Fraser Hines back as Jamie, because we never really got him back much aside from that cameo in Five Doctors, so actually having him come back for a story is good. I don't like that cliffhanger to part one when he's kind of holding Perry, because it doesn't make sense for him to do that. It's kind of odd that he's survived all this time in there as well, but when he's kind of holding Perry as a cliffhanger, it feels out of character and weird. But I do enjoy him in this. He definitely steps right back into the role of being Jamie well. I will be him and he will be me. Who will I be? I enjoy his little, not as educated moments too. I also really like how well the Sixth Doctor and Jamie get along. I feel like Colin's Doctor and Jamie get on well. I actually really like their interactions and the fact they seem to get on well. I enjoy that. Perry's also fine in this. The other actors are good for the most part, except for the guy playing the bug collector and the waiter. He is the worst part of the story. That scene when he's dying is terrible and could be the thing that drags this down from the #1 spot, possibly. I mean, it would have been, #1 would probably still be #1, but it would have been a lot closer. I hate his death when he's quoting Shakespeare. Whatever it is he's doing when he's dying. He's like, "I'm dying," and I'm like, When? You're dying. Go on and die already. That whole scene. His acting in general for all of the scenes he's in is just mostly annoying. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm right there with the other angiogram character. I want to stab him too. I like the part when he stabs him. I'm like, yes! I have to sit through the long death, but at least he's dying. Having Jacqueline Pierce is great. She's good in the role. I do like at the end how as smart as she is and as altered as she is, the second Doctor was right that you can't alter kind of her base programming, and we see it when she bends down and starts licking the blood off her hands. I do enjoy that, and that's when Dastari realizes he's failed. That's a really cool scene, and it's acted really well. I like Dastari, the fact that him and the Doctor are old friends, and him kind of Dastari learning the errors of his ways. I love the beginning of the episode. How it kind of starts out like a second Doctor episode. I like the fact the first few seconds are in black and white as a nod to his era, and that the first few minutes of the story feel like a second Doctor story with the Doctor and Jamie, and they even give a nice mention to Victoria. I think it's Victoria. When they go there and the base gets taken over by the Sontarans. It's a nice little mini second Doctor story, and I love it for that. I love it for that. I got to give credit to the Sontaran theme. The incidental music in this story is great, but that Sontaran theme is one of the best pieces of incidental music in all of Doctor Who. I mean, it's right up there with just about anything Murray Gold has done. I won't say everything, but most of the stuff even Murray Gold has done, that theme is just great. That I love that theme, and they play it a lot, I really wish they would use that again, like in Modern Who, if they ever have a story where they bring the Sontarans back, to have that theme in there, like a variation of it. I love that theme. Especially right there at the beginning when the Cybermen are attacking the base. It's such a cool attack. And that iconic shot when the second Doctor surrenders and you just see the arm go up holding the weapon and you just see the second Doctor. I love that shot. I love that shot. And then, Jacqueline Pierce knocking out the one guy to lower the shields to let them in. It's such a good scene. The Centaurians themselves are a little too tall. They should be shorter. It's not the best design. The actors playing them are fine. But it's definitely not their best outing in Doctor Who, for sure. But that theme makes up for it. That theme is awesome. I love that theme. I don't really care for the location work at the villa, the main villa they're at. I didn't really care for. But the location work when they're in the city, like when they're looking for the second Doctor for the restaurant, looks gorgeous. Looks really nice. I really, really like that. I wish they could have found the studio footage, because my understanding is it exists and somebody has it. They just couldn't get it for the box set. I would have liked to have seen that. Since season 22 is the last season they actually used film for the location work. But yeah, Two Doctors is a lot of fun. It's nice seeing Troughton back one last time, Jamie back one last time. And it's a pretty good story. Maybe a tad over long, but a pretty good story. And number 1 on the list is Mark of the Rani, which I believe topped my last list as well. Mark of the Rani it's a really good historical. I wish Colin had more historicals. I think this is his only historical. And it's really good. I don't know all of the historical figures involved. I looked them up a little more later, but that's like a year ago, so I've forgotten a lot of that. But I enjoyed the location work for this one a lot. The studio sets also look fine. The incidental music for this one is also really good. I do remember really liking the incidental music in this. Colin is great in this. Perry is good in this. I really love Katie O'Mara as the Rani. This is definitely the better of the Rani stories. And I really figured the Rani as a character out more in this one. The fact she's a brains, not brawn type. That she's a thinker, not a fighter. She's more the spider in the web. Even though, like in Time of the Rani, she is kind of in the middle of things. But that's more because the situation forces her to have to disguise herself as Mel and everything. She's more willing to let other people do the physical work and fighting for her while she plots. And it's really neat seeing how, I think a lot of people who don't know any better might think of her, especially before Time Lords could switch genders, think of her as like, well, she's the female master. She's like the master, but she's female. And that's really not true. That's one of the reasons I'm also glad the master is in this story, because with them on screen together, you see just how different they are. Whereas she's brain, not brawn. The master is brain and brawn. And how he's physically able to dominate her. Like when he snatches the thing out of her hand, when she's like, I can have power over this. And he's like, oh, I'll give it back if you do it, I tell you. And he constantly physically thwarts her. Because they're both intelligent, even if it's in different ways, which is also a nice little nuanced thing. But he physically is stronger than she is. Whereas she's not that kind of fighter, whereas the master is. He'll get up right there and personal with his weapons. And I like that distinction between them, that they're not just, she's not just a female master. She's a totally different character. And I do enjoy their scenes together. Anthony and Katie act very well together. It doesn't, all of it doesn't completely work. I don't like the scene when the guy gets turned into the tree and then protects her. That doesn't really work for me. I felt bad for that guy, because he seemed like a nice guy, and then he got hypnotized by the master. I felt really bad for him. I love the Rani's TARDIS. I love that the Rani's TARDIS is a different TARDIS. I don't even like, Modern Who does this too. I don't like when other TARDISes look a lot like the Doctor's TARDIS. Because they should look different. Because the Doctor's TARDIS is this old, outdated museum piece model. All of the modern day good TARDISes shouldn't look like his. It always bugs me even in Classic Who, like in The Time Monster, when the Master's TARDIS looks just like the Doctor's TARDIS with a different rotor. I mean, I get why it's like that. It's down to, budget and stuff. And of course, the normal TARDIS console is having to double as somebody else's console. I get that. But just on a what I want scale, I wish they made the other TARDISes look different. Even as much as I love Joe Martin's TARDIS or the other future TARDISes, in Whittaker's era, when she's piloting the other TARDIS, it still looks, and those TARDISes look gorgeous, by the way, they still look a little too much like his TARDIS. I wish they looked a little more updated. They do look a little more updated. Matter of fact, I actually really like Joe Martin's TARDIS a lot. It's better than Whittaker's TARDIS by a long shot. But I actually like the fact that the Rani's TARDIS looks drastically different. Her TARDIS looks like, his looks like the 1993 Beretta, whereas her TARDIS looks like the 2023 Corvette by comparison. And I like that distinction. I like that difference. And the fact it's just so different. I also love the scene when the Master and the Rani are in the TARDIS and they're talking and they're calling him like a clown or something like that, a dandy, and Colin's just like, and then they leave. And I love when Colin sabotages their TARDIS, because I love when he walks over and he's like holding a screwdriver, and when he looks at it, he just stops at the console and he does this little shit-eating grin that he does, this pure shit-eating grin that he does, that makes the story for me. I mean, I love the story for all the other stuff I've talked about. But that could be my favorite moment in the whole story. That's possibly the best acting I've ever seen Colin Baker do. And that's not a knock on him. I like several things he's done. But I just love that grin he gives, like, hee. Oh, they left me all alone. The parents are away. I'm unsupervised. He has that look on his face, that look of, if I doed it, I get a whooping. I doed it. I absolutely love that look. I can't overstate it enough. Just, it's so much fun. And there's other little parts that I can't quite think of right off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember if that's the one, like, when him and Perry are about to leave. Well, what do y'all do? And he's like, argue mainly. Which is actually true. I enjoy that. There's just other little moments. I do like the fact that Rani is disguised at the beginning of it as the old woman. I mean, I realized it was her, but it's nice to see her disguised. Although it's interesting that once she takes it off, she never puts it back on. She's like, eh. So it is interesting seeing her kind of pulling a Master there with the disguise. Of course, also in Time in the Rani, she disguises herself as Mel. Sorta. I mean, it looks weird, but... I like when she's trying to act ditzy as Mel. Whatever must we do, Doctor? That's funny. That is funny in Time in the Rani. So yeah, Mark of the Rani is my favorite. I do also need to give it a rewatch sometime, because I've just watched it the one time. But I really like it. I wish Colin had more historicals. I have a feeling the most controversial one will be Time Lash being placed so high. Even I'm sitting here going to that one. So I would like to know what you think of this list and how you would rank them. So comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. That helps me out. I certainly appreciate it. I am trying to reach 1,000 goals. 1,000 goals? That's a lot of goals. 1,000 subscribers in 2023. So that would definitely help me. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below. That does help me keep the bills paid, especially lately. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I do appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, Doctor Who related or otherwise. It is a sci-fi channel after all. And I also have a link to my P.O. box down there if there's anything you would like to send me on from that as well. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching. Number 9 on the list is The Ultimate Foe. This is hard. I think I ate something that didn't settle right. Number 9 on the list is The Ultimate Foe. No. Maybe it doesn't want to be number 9 on the list.